Good evening. Welcome to the June 10th, 2024 work session for the Charter Township of Kalamazoo at 5:30. And the first thing that we have on the agenda is the water surcharge. Steve, you want to do it, or Mark? You don't want to jump in there?
We remember that a while back, we passed a resolution to remove the water connection fee. And this was counseled to be done by all of the participants with the City of Kalamazoo water system, because the system will henceforth be paying for all the operations and maintenance. This is another step along that direction, in that the only thing realistically that we have to pay from this going forward would be the annual dues for the Regional Commission. And the balance in the Water Improvement Fund would be sufficient to carry that for quite a number of years. So Trustee Ludi and I had spoken about this some time ago, and then he got the ball rolling, and I have mentioned that to a few other members as well.
Yeah. Any questions or comments about it?
I'd say Trustee Miller got the ball rolling, and I just kept it rolling, and then we worked on it together and rolled it together and got more details. I just looked at my own bill. I should have looked at. I just got a bill today in the mail. Maybe you all did too.
Yeah.
But it shows that surcharge, and I figured out mine for the last 12 months was $8.74. So if we took action like this, then it would reduce my taxes or my cost by $8.74, and it puts us in legal standing, because we really can't charge people a surcharge for things they're not getting. It has to balance, the revenue has to balance the expenditures.
Yeah, I agree. I looked at mine too, because mine was $130 total to start with, and I was looking to see what my surcharge was. So I know mine came today too. Shereen?
I just want to say thank you for doing that. I appreciate it, and I'm sure the residents will as well. It's 3% of the water, not the whole water portion of it, but it's kind of confusing how
Well, based on water use, like the size of line you have, and how many I forget the metric tons, not tons, but MCL, it's like that, the unit of water that you use.
Yeah.
So
But I believe it's measured in cubic meters.
cubic meters, okay, yeah.
There you go.
Anybody else? Okay, good. Job well done. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Okay, the next one is mine, I guess. This is to do with consumers' power on Gorham Lane. They're going to put a pole up in front of the church here on Gorham Lane and put the light hanging from there. Then it looks like they're going to change another light that's out there in the roadway already, and go from sodium vapor back to LED. So it looks like they're going to do two of them there. It's really, as Mark and I just looked at it again, it's really pretty hard to understand what they're talking about. A lot of stuff doesn't match. But I've gone around and around consumers for the last month trying to get this thing done, and they've been asking me to sign the thing so we can sign it and move it on to them. So I'm happy with it. It's no cost to us. Let them do their thing. We've never had to do this before with consumers, but apparently they're starting something new here, because we've got two things that you only see one on the work session. The other one is H Avenue and Drake Road, and I'll bring that up at a regular meeting, and that's just to us to put a light up there too. We have the intersection, we have one light, and Oshkosh, I think, has two lights, but we pay for one. We don't pay for the light, they put it up, we just pay for the running of the lights, the electric of the lights. So, but anyway, we just need to sign this and move it on. There's no cost to us.
I understand that. I'm going to ask, does anybody here have any understanding of what they're doing that's beyond what the supervisor and I do? I'm just going to read the words here. There's a resolution, and the resolution doesn't mention what is to be done. And then the next page is Form 54711-2014, and it says the following. General unmetered light emitting diode relating lighting guide, GULED. Bullet point. 140 watt LED white Cobra head cutoff to install at location intersection of Gorham Lane and Grace Road. Second bullet point. one 110-watt LED white center suspension, NA, to remove at location, removing 100-watt HPS center suspension at the intersection of Gorham Lane and Grace Road. We're talking about 3 fixtures, and to me, that makes no sense.
So the center suspension is the one that's hung by the cable?
Yes.
They're gonna take that center suspension out and put a pole mounted.
Right, light in front of
Yep.
the church.
But it said, what's the 40-watt and what's the 110-watt?
I am gonna, I don't have it.
No, I
Yeah.
have no, we have no clue.
It's the difference between the sodium vapor and the LED light.
The sodium vapor is 100-watt. We also have mention here of a 110-watt LED and a 40-watt LED. And so, if we're removing one thing and replacing it, this is not adding up.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is that when you put the arm up with the pole, they'll have a light on the pole and they'll have a light on the arm. That's the only thing I can think of. But
Okay.
that doesn't what it says.
Well, I guess I'm not going to make a fuss
We'll
about it,
find out when we get it done.
but it is awfully strange.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thanks. You and I talked about that earlier. Things just doesn't, always sometimes do not line up like they're supposed to be. All right, the next one is the, go ahead.
Hi. I did come across a contract with Consumers Energy that Ron Reed signed,
Yes.
in 2015. And I'm a little confused on why they're asking us to sign a contract from 2015 when this deals with these fixtures today. So I'm not comfortable just re-signing a contract that no one else has seen.
Well, I'll be more than glad to send this to your office and you can deal with both of them because it doesn't make any sense to me.
I would love to. I will do that
But,
because I want to talk about why we're even collecting the .3 mils for streetlights.
Well, this has nothing to do with that. The what mills is because what we pay for, collect for streetlights, because we pay consumers for the lights, to running on the lights. We pay electric to the lights.
Right, so, but I thought at one discussion, we were paying for those to switch over from the,
No, we're not paying anything to switch them over now.
okay.
Because Steve and I looked at that originally one time.
Yeah.
We were gonna ask them we were gonna pay the extra to switch them over. And then they said no, and then they finally come back and said, no, we're just gonna switch them as they go out.
Yeah,
So they're doing it at their own cost. All right?
Yeah.
So,
I was,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's not, we're not being asked to sign a new contract, it's just because this would be a change within the contract, so
Yes.
that is why we have to sign to approve the change.
What is, because you're going from a hanging light to a pole light.
so did you want me to follow up on this?
No,
or
we'll
did
just
you-
go ahead and do this, because I agree with the clerk. It's not to rechange the contract, it's just an addition to the contract, saying that we're changing from what was there presently to what it's going to be, which is the pole.
And I'll also add that I did talk to someone from the road commission and, regarding this document, cause I said I'm trying to understand this before I sign. So basically, I know that it's a time sensitive, issue, like they're starting the work, and so, that's why I'd be hesitant to put it off, but,
I think that's the other one, but that's not this one.
Oh,
here,
was
but
it?
That's fine. Yeah, that one there you talked about is the one on H Avenue and Drake Road, which is time sensitive because they're just starting it today.
yeah, okay,
This one here is the one that's already on Gorham, that they're just gonna move the cable going across the road and put a pole up.
okay.
But it's the same thing, they're not changing the contract, they're just saying, we want you to sign this because we've changed the contract, we've changed where the light is, basically.
Ashley had her hand up.
Okay, Ashley?
Well, I was just gonna say, is there more documentation that we haven't seen that applies to this situation?
Not on this one here, in the board packet there's one, which is the one which we've had before. It's the one, and it's in your regular board packet.
Oh.
It's for the H Avenue one in Drake Road. This is the one where they're changing the pole.
I don't have a problem getting the work done, I just have a problem, like, signing a contract, because this form from 2015 is Form 548,
Okay?
and this one is 547, and none of the other board in this term has seen the contract from 2015. So, again, I don't have an issue having the work done, I want it done, it's necessary, but
My understanding is that the contract that they want is just that we give them permission to put the pole up at their cost and take the line down.
And you will pay for the electricity.
And we pay for the electricity because we're paying for it now.
right.
So we have to, they want us to still pay for electricity, that's why they're changing into the 40-watt LEDs and getting rid of the sodium vapor. And the other, LED also. Mark?
But are you saying, Treasurer, that you would prefer to have some time to get in touch yourself and follow up with this? If I understand, there's no time sensitivity necessarily on this.
I don't know about the one on H Avenue, because I don't know where I'm at. I don't know on Gorham Lane, I don't know where they're at on that one. I mean, I don't know when they're thinking about putting the pole in.
Do you want to ask to remove that from the agenda, or what?
If it's the board's, if it's okay with the board, I would really prefer to, if we're gonna go off of a contract from 2015, have the board, the ability to look at that and have that conversation. I would like to have that conversation with consumers. Prices go up, I don't know how
Yeah,
we're gonna,
We're not going to be charged for making this change.
Right.
But we are charged an unmetered rate for every
Light we have.
light
right,
that we
that's
have.
about $45,000 to $48,000 a month.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's not a charge, it's a minor change in the contract that we're being asked to approve, and they spell out what the change would be with the removal of the one light and the addition of the new one. I feel comfortable, but I think that's up to every board member to decide for themselves, so.
I do too, but that's just me and you too,
Yeah.
because I've read it over 100 times to see
I
what
do-
they're trying to do, so.
I do understand your concerns that, I mean, this is a valid and current contract, but it was signed some time ago, so, there's no reason we can't all take a look at that document and,
Well, and I think too, we have a committee for the, streetlights, and maybe the streetlight committee ought to just take a look at those contracts and see where they're at and bring it back to the board too. But I see no reason to hold this up.
yeah.
But I see where we might want to find out why this is going on, what's going on, why we got 15 there and one number, this one number is lower than the one that the other one is, so.
So could we remove it to the next?
I don't
meeting?
want to, that's up to you.
I would like to, but again, I'm
I
only
would-
one of 7.
I would just as soon do so in order to
It's time sensitive.
ask some questions, see if we can get a copy of the contract we're under, and I'll be happy to undertake that, since I think I'm the streetlight committee.
Yes. You're the head of the streetlight committee.
So-
I'll be more than glad to do it to you.
Yeah,
And
I'll
you-
give you everything that I ran across.
sure.
Mark, do you have a contact at Consumers? Derek Knopf?
Derek Doss is a contract you have to get hold of.
Yeah, all right.
I might have his email address.
Okay, we're gonna remove it.
I think Attorney Seaver is asking, do you have his contact information? Because that's something she or I, or somebody else could also provide. I think that's what she's saying.
If you have it, would
Yeah.
you give it to me later, and I'll follow up from there. Thank you.
Okay, need more on this.
Are they reconfiguring? It looks like we have a new roundabout.
That's a
Okay.
different one, that's a
And
different
then
light.
what's the one at HF?
That's the one on HF, yes.
Okay, where's the other one?
This one here is on Gorham Lane. This is in front of the
That's
church.
nothing new, that's just a change.
That's just a change.
Okay. So
That's where they're putting a pole up and taking the wires across the road off.
that 2015 is what they call a standard lighting contract. It's also the form number 248. You can find that on the web. So what it says is this is the standard lighting contract we're gonna give to everybody. So what I have seen in recent past is this: whenever they're gonna make a change to something in the road, and they're gonna replace a fixture or put in a different kind of lamp, they're coming to the individual municipality saying, you have to agree to this because it's a change from the standard form contract you signed in 2015. Now we're gonna do this, just let us do it. It's weird that they asked for a resolution. We haven't been able to get them to not need a resolution, but there's really nothing wrong with what they're asking for, as long as you understand that the change is really to their actual fixtures, and the reason they ask it is so that you understand that change is being made, you have to pay for it, for the electricity. It may be less.
Right.
Probably so if we're taking out a high-pressure sodium.
Yes.
And I have seen a lot of confusion with respect to the roundabouts, because sometimes they're between municipalities, and so then they go to one and say, you have to pay for this one, somebody else has to pay for the other one,
Yeah.
and they want everything done at once, but they don't understand that some places only meet once a month, some meet twice a month, and so they kind of, come at you too fast to try to make a decision, but I mean, it's smart not to just sign it because it is a board decision.
Okay. All right. Okay, we'll move on to the next one here. Is the discussion of the temporary hour changes. Treasurer Miller.
Yeah, thank you. So this was a discussion that Superintendent Ward and I had, as well as, I think, were you involved in that discussion as well, Lisa?
A little bit. I'll tell you my thoughts once you introduce it.
So this is just a request, I guess informing the board that we would like to be able to close the office on Friday to the public, but still have the administrative staff working that day. And the clerk, the deputy treasurer, myself, Clerk Mackey, and Tracy Morris will be working closely to get things lined up appropriately and all the dollar amounts factual. Just looking for some time to have no interruptions, and be able to just work on this and get it together. And it might happen quicker than the anticipated time that we've suggested. We would definitely let everyone know that, but we just felt like it was a good move for coming into this half a year into 2024. So
When do we start paying taxes?
July
July
1,
1st.
the bills go out, they're in mailboxes by July 1, and people usually come in that first week, the day they receive them or shortly after. We already thought about putting it on the tax bills if the board was to agree to this, to make people aware. And we can also put it on our website, in our newsletter, just doing everything we can to inform the residents of that change for Fridays.
Mark?
But what about election-related?
That's,
business?
and if I
Go ahead.
may, I have reached out to the Bureau of Elections because I wanted some guidance once I heard that this might be something coming before our board. They still have not responded to me, and I've reached out both by phone and email. I know that there are going to be some dates that by law, my clerk's department will have to be open and available. And whether that be, putting a sign on the door that says if you need to reach the clerk for election purposes, call this number, or whether we need to actually be open, I don't have an answer for that at this point. I'm trying to learn if there are other additional dates. The dates that I know would be of concern would be the Friday before the election, and then also after the election for the 5 day, there's 5 days of curing for signature cures that we would have to be available. So, I guess if we did move forward with this, I would ask that, we just be willing to pivot if we need to be in compliance with the state law for election purposes.
I'll say that I thought about a few things when looking at it because, number one, it's tax time and it's election time, both. And so both of those are major when it comes to residents. And I understand that you said it might not take as long if you put out a specific range of time on tax notices, which almost everyone receives, which is a great way of communicating something to the masses. But if it then takes less time, then how do we go about making that change? And what would that look like cost-wise? Because you now have to re-communicate to everyone, okay, well, you know what, it didn't take us as long and we're back open. How does that look and how do you go about that? Because one way gets it to everybody, and if you don't then send something else out to communicate, I can see where that might be a hiccup. I also thought about the election side of things, with it being so different, and with this being a first as well, for a whole lot of different things in the clerk's department. I know how confused people already are, and so I guess my hesitation is because there's already so much confusion. If you say, okay, well, just for this short amount of time, we're gonna do this, and then, okay, nope, now we're gonna go back to this. I don't know how residents, speaking from that perspective, will feel about that. So that's just my concern. My concern is with taxes, with how do you communicate it, and then as well as with the major changes to elections, how do we then go about making sure that that works for the clerk's department? So.
Ashley?
So I think I have a few thoughts. I mean, I'm all for making modifications to hours to make it easier to have uninterrupted work time. I think that we can find a way probably to make it feasible for you to be open when you need to. I mean, this is just my thoughts, whether that's, putting some signage out and obviously using the website is a great tool too, or using, social media to remind people. There's lots of ways to keep communicating that. I know we haven't, always used all of those tools very well, but we should do that. I think in the past, didn't we have a modification to some hours on Fridays in the past where we were just closed all the way at 1 o'clock on
Yeah.
Fridays?
We'll just have
Well, we
days,
still do
modify it to
half-days.
half days.
Okay, so this would just be then making it close the full day, right?
Right.
Temporarily.
Just June 28th through August 23rd, minus the election days that are required to be open.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it being an enormous problem as long as we, make sure we post signage and keep people in the loop, Maybe even putting some kind of phone number that can be called if there's an emergency or, something like that where where you can still get a hold of someone if you really need to.
Mark, you had your hand up.
Clerk, you have not received an answer yet.
I have not.
So if that's the case, can we really vote on this tonight?
I think, our next meeting, next board meeting would occur before this June 28th date. So it's possible that we could bring this to the next meeting, but we wouldn't have quite as much time to communicate that particular Friday to people. So there's a potential that it could, if we hold off, then that's less time to make the announcement, to make people aware if the board does move forward with making these temporary changes.
I'm just a little nervous about making an announcement we're going to be closed and then finding that there is some restriction on that, and then having to change what we've said on the fly.
I'm nervous about that as well. That's why I was really trying to get an answer from the Bureau of Elections before this meeting.
Ashley?
So if we don't do this, what would we do, like, about our already modified hours on Fridays for the day that you need to be on?
That would stay the same except for elections, if she would have to be in.
Right, so
For
isn't
five,
that
I
kind
mean-
of the same thing?
Right.
Well, I think that there are certain times where, for instance, like if there's a 5 p.m. deadline on a Friday, that voters have the time, until that time to take an action, then we would have to be available to anyone coming here to do that type of business. So I feel like we probably could move forward, but we would have to have a plan in place for how, like, I would word it, I'm just trying to think how you would announce it and how you would clearly state it, so that I think you could probably go about it in a way that you put a sign up on the door and put that on the website and maybe announce it on social media, stating, the township will temporarily be closed on Fridays from this date to this date. But if you have election business for these particular reasons, I'm not saying that we need to open it up for all election business, but when there's a state requirement, like for instance, the curing, the signature curing, we can state what that specific purpose would be, where the clerk would be available.
I guess I'm just thinking, like, are we maybe overcomplicating this? Because aren't we going to have to communicate that somehow already? Because we already have hours where we're not open on Fridays in the afternoon.
Yeah, but
And you'll be here, right, for the days that you have to be here.
yeah,
So you'll be available.
yes. Mm-hmm.
So I guess I feel like if it's just certain staff won't be available to meet with people that morning, I just wonder if we're maybe overthinking it a little bit.
Do you have any, I guess my question is there any treasury concerns with tax payments? Like, do you foresee that being a concern?
Personally, I always like to be available for people to make their tax payments.
Yeah.
But we do have options. You can pay online. You can drop it off in the Dropbox. As far as having specific dates that you are statutorily responsible for, we could fit in there to say, okay, these specific Fridays will not be open, which, makes it a little more, you got to do some checking to make sure that someone is on staff that Friday to collect your taxes or to do the elections. So, we could pick certain dates.
I think that it would just complicate things. I think I would probably, if this is the range, I would keep that the range. And then I would just make sure that we can communicate clearly that certain deadlines for elections, those deadlines will still be honored, and the clerk will be available by calling, a phone number that would. So I also wonder if the phone system be shut down if we're closing? Because that could be, if we're not taking in calls, like I just kind of want to know before we decide and think about potential complications
Well,
of
we
that.
don't take any calls now at Friday after
Yeah.
1:30,
So the phones would be shut down then as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
They are down now at Fridays.
Okay.
Steve?
So,
Nope.
so when I'm hearing everybody say it, it's kind of a little soundbite in my head, but other than election matters, the township hall will be closed on Fridays, the date range, blah, 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 just something like that. So maybe that satisfies it all?
And I wouldn't just say all election stuff. Like, I think we need to limit it to what is statutorily required.
Say, add the word statutory,
Yeah,
unless statutorily required, it will be closed at
yeah,
this time from this range.
yeah. And I can get specific guidance from the BOE. So I guess if maybe if we did move this forward, I would just ask that, that the board would consider passing it, with, the caveat that the clerk might have to, however it's noticed, that I have a little bit of leeway as to how I want to word, when those available hours would be and for what purpose regarding elections.
Steve?
And also Superintendent Moore is a part-time employee still, so, that would give you time as clerk to put your two brains together and come up with something. So I can feel comfortable with that rather than having to wait till June 27th before any hard decisions made. That
Yeah.
it can be made tomorrow,
Yeah.
when Tracy may be here, or if I got that right.
Yes. Okay.
So my next question is this something that we need to vote on, that the board needs to vote on? And I guess that would be toward, that question towards you, Roxanne.
It's more of a policy decision,
Right.
so the board could vote on it. I mean, at one point when you had a manager, I believe the manager even brought that to the board. So I would tell you that it's probably best that because it's a policy decision, that the board vote on it.
Okay.
Okay. Are we done? Okay. All right. The next one is discussion of the surveillance system upgrade and additional cameras. Gentlemen, or gentlemen. Looks like one's getting up, one's staying seated.
Good evening. At the request of, I think, some of the departments, IT's done a good job of identifying some issues we're having with our current surveillance system, and while implementing some upgrades, also adding in some spots that we had previously discussed for additional cameras and upgrades. So specifically, the police department, the front office, and the fire stations. Some of those places have very little camera surveillance system now, which was the requirement of adding further infrastructure, and the current system requires some updating. I will say what the IT department has done really, really well is incorporate all of our buildings to be routed back here. So they're centrally located, and the server can be here where it can be updated and handled on a day-to-day basis. And I think Fire Chief would agree that they've done a really good job of providing access for all those outlying stations back to the department. So they're asking for $42,857 to complete that surveillance system upgrade and add additional cameras. That's well below what we anticipated it was going to be when we were first tasked to do this.
I got a question, because I was just looking it over here a minute. Is there anything in here as far as upgrading the server? I don't see that on here, so we do have video that we can watch.
So that's under the Township Hall, number one, the up-mounted server with necessary licensing and drives.
Yes, I missed it. Oh, server, oh, geez, I missed the server. Oh, that's, okay, disregard. I'm blind today. Thank you. I saw the rack and then I didn't go. I think so. That answered my question. That's what happens when you got another set of eyes here
I
for you.
can understand.
Any questions for us, Steve?
I want to ask the chief, how do you see it being divided out? It shows on a agenda request form, capital funds. Is that 3 different capital funds, or how will pay the
I
difference?
think if you would like to pay it out of the Township capital funds, it'd be excellent. I know it's if you'd like to classify it as a IT, that's at the pleasure of the board.
Okay, I see your point,
Yeah,
because it's an infrastructure that applies to the whole township.
yeah.
So I didn't know which way it was gonna go, so that's a good answer.
That's a political answer, that's, you know that. Anybody else, any other questions? But I agree with you, that's all for the same purpose, it doesn't matter, how you do it. I mean, we can just take a look here at the township, we look at the police, we look at the fire, those could have their own separate capitals, but it still comes out of the same pot when you get done with it. So
And I
that's why-
think you have, like, the fire department's doing a lot of preparation for installation, so
Right.
they're able to pick up some of that cost. It's the same
Right.
with the police side.
And that's why we got a superintendent to figure out where she wants to take the money out of. Gregory?
That is correct.
Okay, any other questions? I'm all for it, I just wanna make sure we get started.
Was this item also included the office staff, like the security at the front counter? Is that, or is that?
That's
I thought
separate.
we were gonna
That's
discuss-
separate.
That's separate.
Separate?
That's
Okay.
separate, yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, yeah, I see that, thank you.
All right.
So you're like I am, you missed a word. Okay, thank you.
Is that 14.5?
Yeah, okay. The next one here is the one that Steve was talking about, is the discussion of the additional security for the front office staff. Treasurer, you want to lead us on this?
Yeah, so, closing these doors on this end of the building and reopening the main entrance doors prompted, some additional feelings of security for front office staff. And this had been in discussion before, had reached out to J&J Glass as well as Reliable Glass. We reviewed with both companies the objection of what we were looking to do, how it was going to get done, and how much it would cost. We got both proposals back, and I did reach out to Reliable Glass at one point saying this isn't quite what we were thinking of, but at this point, I feel like tax season is coming quick, and it's going to take up to 6 weeks to be able to get it completed. That's already going to put us into tax season. I was very pleased with the proposal from J&J Glass. I liked the look of it, the design, the safety features. So I just thought I'd bring this forward to the board, and you do have options. There's the additional $2,850 to make the glass tempered. But the staff would feel good with that, but again, it is a board decision on how much money we want to spend on this. The Reliable Glass proposal, in my opinion, just didn't fit what we were looking for, so.
Mark?
I have a greenhouse in the back of my house, and the panes have broken over the years from time to time, and I've been replacing them with tempered glass. And I've used J&J for that work. I know they're not the cheapest company out there, but they have done excellent work, so that's just a personal observation.
Thank you. Ashley?
Can you just like kind of elaborate a little bit on what the upgrade entails? Like I can see the picture and they're replacing, but what kind of extra safety or security will it add?
So the way he explained it to me is if you add the tempered glass, you could actually hit it with a big mallet kind of thing, and it's still, you could hit it several times before it breaks. And actually, Clerk Mackey showed me a video as well on tempered glass and how strong it is.
That was actually not the
Oh.
temp, I mean,
Oh, that
tempered,
was the-
tempered glass is great. I think it's wonderful, but I was talking specifically about a 3M security coating, which I felt was something we should consider doing, because that security film that 3M makes, like, if somebody was to, like, shoot at it. It won't stop the bullets, but it makes it really hard to get through. Like it would take a while, and since we do have, some police department right next to us, I feel like it would definitely buy us plenty of time to do if we were in that kind of an emergency event. But this doesn't include that, so.
And if we don't do the tempered glass, then what is the benefit without it?
So,
Glass would shatter.
No, what is the benefit of the upgrade without going with the tempered glass option?
so it won't shatter without, maybe I could defer to our police chief, because he's done more of this work than I have ever. I'm not really schooled on it. He did explain it to me, and in listening to their explanation, would you mind, chief, or would you prefer to let me stumble around up here?
Go ahead. So I'm not familiar with your project, your quote. I'm a little more familiar with the 3M product, so I know that adheres to glass. We've used it in applications here. While it doesn't allow, it's not bulletproof or anything like that, it does prevent the glass from breaking in completely. So even if you were to punch holes through it or damage it, the structure itself is staying in place. So if someone wasn't able to access the building or get in through the glass. And so it still maintains kind of that integrity of it, even though it's not resistant to breaking or being penetrated. Is that what you're hoping to get?
Well, right now on this proposal from them, they quoted $6,750 for clear laminated safety glass. So additionally, it would be a $2,850 to add the tempered to it.
Is that like safety glass on a windshield? I'm assuming.
Safety glass, limited safety glass,
Yeah.
Later, it's also still laminated.
Yeah.
But it's harder to crack it.
Yeah. So we're
Tempered
talking
actually's got a.
about the difference between the glass in your vehicle side windows versus the glass in your windshield. I think that might be the difference. You're
Right.
just talking about the structural integrity of that glass. But I can't speak to your.
Yeah, the tempered glass itself has got you got a liner, or I'd say a liner, it's like a film in between the glass itself, which makes it so it doesn't all crush in. You can break it, but it's not gonna crush in. So it's just a safety factor, just like Jerris had said there, you take the side windows, you can pop them. The thing, you see all the glass break, you take a windshield or you take the back window, and you can't do that with it tempered, because it just makes it stronger. All it does is make the glass stronger. But I still think that you need a tempered glass, but I still think you also need the 3M film on them also, because if that's what our object is, to make it a little safer up there, I think that you can put that, I know that my one son's school, we put the 3M film on the windows there. And I don't think it's that far cost out of sight to do that. It's a lot cheaper to do that than put bulletproof glass in.
That is not part of this quote.
No.
No, it's not.
And I'm sorry, I did make that phone call when Lisa shared that with me, but I didn't get a response on that, because I wanted to know what the additional cost would be on that. So I don't have that answer.
So, I was gonna ask that, just to speak from a safety standpoint, clearly it's a good idea to have the strongest thing that you can have. If the goal is to make, the front staff feel more secure, then it makes sense. On another note, when it comes to the residents and communication, is it going to be the mic'd things that are there, or what does that look like for people? The reason I speak to this is because everybody knows Comstock got a new township hall. we have major issues when it comes to communication because of the way that it was set up. Now granted, it was set up for our safety, but we have sliders. So, I mean, you could actually just come through there if you wanted to. I can't say that I feel much more secure. Visually, it has caused issues, but the biggest issue that we have had is the ability to hear. For residents to hear us, for us to hear residents. And I know that it, of course, it costs more money to put the speaker boxes in like the city has in other locations. But I can tell you right now, the stronger the glass you put, the harder it is going to be to hear residents. And if you have residents that are hard of hearing or those things, it's very, very difficult. So I guess my question is, what does that look like? And then also when it comes to the safety aspect of, is it a drop down to be able to pass items through, or is it a slide? So I had questions along those lines, just because, like I said, I know that one of the biggest issues that I now face is the ability to be able to hear, which we find ourselves doing this more than I would like to. So, my chiropractor likes it, but I am just saying, it makes it difficult. And also, is there one that would be ADA compliant for residents that might sit lower? What does that look like? So I guess those are my questions, where that's my biggest concern. I understand the concern of safety, that is extremely important, but the stronger that glass is, the harder it is to hear. So,
So if I may, the speaker or the holes in the glass are not mic'd. It's just a speak through vent.
Yeah, it shows it kind of in the picture
Yeah.
a little better now that I like have what you're thinking in mind.
Those are the
no,
pass-through
I
areas,
see that
right?
part, but my issue is if you have a resident that sits lower,
And that's
then
where
they
it's
are yelling up
little, like,
to
circle
that.
slits.
So one of them should be ADA compliant or lower down, because if I am in a wheelchair, then my ability to get what I'm trying to say to you through there, if I'm not standing up, it will make a difference. And it'll also make a difference in your ability to hear me, whether you have a mic or not. I just, I don't know if one of them should be ADA compliant or at least brought down, because I don't think you can forget that part.
But to bring it down, you'd have to redo the counter. You'd have
Yeah.
to redo the whole counter itself.
But I think you have to consider that, because residents come in all kinds. And so to not have a space that is ADA compliant, if I come in a wheelchair, how do I now communicate with you if I cannot stand up out of that? And I think that you have to look at the whole thing. If you're gonna make a change, I agree with making the change, especially from the safety aspect. But where you're protecting the people that are on the inside, you also still need to be able to service residents that are on the outside. And if you're gonna spend any kind of money, you gotta look at both. Just my personal opinion.
Well, I'm just kind of looking at the amount of time, I didn't see your hand up. I'm looking at the amount of time that I've been here, and I've had people coming and paying taxes either in wheelchairs or what. And I've not seen a problem the way it is now. Now, I understand what you're saying is, once the glass is thicker, the hearing goes away.
It does.
But there is still a pass-through window on the bottom of this.
Right.
As you see here, these are pass-through windows here. So they're still lower at the counter level, which is what they're at right now, is at the counter
So
level.
I understand that part, but if your microphone is up here and I am talking down here, then when you talk to me from up here, it still has to get down. That sound has to travel. So either way, you end up like Township, where you are down talking. Do you understand what I'm
Through
saying?
the circle.
Yes, you're actually
Because if you're
talking
not
through the
talking-
pass-through because the person is down here. So it makes a difference. I don't know if y'all can visually see it, but it does make a difference. And I know it may have not been an issue, but right now it's not solid all the way across. So there's all kind of room for sound to travel through there. If you close that off completely for safety purposes, now you don't have that. And so what wasn't a problem actually becomes a problem.
Steve?
I think trustee Robinson raises like probably the prime point is the ADA compliance. Right now, because I witnessed it myself, someone comes in with a wheelchair, staff comes out, you know, and service helps them. But then that negates the whole being a security, because now staff are out.
Right.
But also, we do have to follow ADA. Whenever we make a change, we have to follow the ADA. And I, you know, working as a property coordinator for Bronson, I put in more than I can count counters, and they always have to have an ADA 30-inch high counter for a wheelchair patient like that. And even to get someone's attention, how do I get your attention when you can't see me because I'm below the counter? That just is a discriminatory thing right there. And we saw with our building committee, we toured Downers Grove is one of the best examples, I think, where they had built in, just like at Bronson and Borges, they had an ADA height counter, and then they had 2 other windows for serving people who weren't in wheelchairs like that. And so it really makes a lot of sense. I've been thinking about this a lot too. Didn't know this was coming up because I was talking at City Hall, Kalamazoo City Hall Treasurer's Department, and they've got the most unique arrangement I've seen. It's kind of a two planes where you're speaking into this box, but then the box goes around. There's all kinds of airspace for the sound of your voice to travel around. So you're getting the COVID transmittal of biofluids coming, or aerosols coming out of someone's mouth. Like that's protected under that kind of arrangement. But you can also have the sound coming around. So it seemed like a good thing. But then you go into this county clerk's office, and you've got the HVAC going, making this huge white noise, and then you're down, like the trustee was saying, cricking your neck, trying to yell, like that. It's just so demeaning. Like, okay, now you just treated me like, I feel so demeaned. It wasn't intentional, but I have to yell through this, and I'm putting all my bioaerosols into your space, which contradicts your COVID protecting counter. So I would really recommend that maybe we go back to the vendors and communicate these concerns, and maybe they could have other options too, like because we talked about the 3M product film, and all those different options we can come up with better ideas. Because I literally, before COVID, I took out all the counters out of Bronson, Vicksburg, because they were impediments to people. People couldn't hear, and they felt demeaned. The patients felt like they were not being treated right. And I took them out, and COVID hit. I put them all back in, like that. So we had to do it right, and we don't want an ADA complaint against us for not. And right now, it's cinder block below the counter. So I'm maybe naive to say it, but I think it is doable to actually lower one portion of that, and that could be built into the quote as well of a proposal.
To lower, I'm sorry, what?
To lower the kind of ADA portion.
This,
So, yeah, of the counter. Because right now, like the supervisor said, we've got solid masonry counter already. The laminated countertop is built on cinder blocks, but there possibly is a way for us to evaluate a proposal. It's not going to be cheap, but I think it's doable, and just to see what options we have. Because right now, the 2 in front of us, like for example, Treasurer, you said you don't like one. I don't know exactly why you didn't like that one, but you like the other. But we still have we've discussed some variables that could be improved even on the proposal you like. And one other thing is, one of the proposals talked about a nice oak counter. With ADA, I had to get rid of all these wood counters because the grain, the porous surface, was something that has to be cleaned. During COVID times particularly, and all the cleaning just destroyed all the nice wood like that. So it really needs to be a laminated or solid surface material for cleaning.
Okay. Ashley?
I guess I would say that I'm in favor of making, as minimal changes as we can, knowing that, hopefully in the near future, we will have, some different discussions about building needs. But I think And also, I think if you're gonna like change the counter, you'll probably need to work with an additional vendor, I'm guessing. I don't think J&J is gonna do that. But I do think, at the very least, we should do, my opinion is we should go with the strongest, like the 3M. We should add that. We should, if we're gonna make the change for safety reasons, then we should definitely add the things that are gonna strengthen the security for it. But maybe if you talk to them, maybe they've dealt with this issue, or maybe there's some kind of like fix that we can have in between that could satisfy ADA compliance with that. You know, maybe there's some option we haven't thought of that they may be aware of others having this issue too, like that could be a fix for in the meantime while we, without, you know, redoing the whole counter or whatever. But I'm totally in favor of making the changes as soon as we can, at least to make people more secure, because I know we've talked about that for a long time. And election season and things like that are gonna be intense, I think, so it is a good idea.
One thing to keep in mind, I'm sorry.
No, I was actually just going to say thank you for bringing it to the board. And I kind of think that maybe it's given, this discussion has given us some ideas of things that we'd all like to see. And so I don't know if you're comfortable with like going back to the vendors and seeing if we can maybe address some of those concerns.
Yep, I can do that.
Yeah, I am, actually, I'm the one that pushed her to get this far this quick, because we changed the doors around, made the ADA doors work, because we got the buttons fixed like they're supposed to be. So we need to be ADA compliance. So that's why we turned the entrances around when we did, because that's where all the controls are. So once we did that, we said, look, we need to fix this counter because we got people in front of them, so. And I agree with Ashley too, because we don't know how long we're gonna be here. I'm just thinking of two different things, because you both brought up good points for the ADA compliance. But the other thing is, I'm looking over here when we do elections, and we have the unit out here where people can vote on, you know, so they don't, you know, which is more or less ADA compliance, where they can do the thing. So we have a place in the building that we do that. So can we have a place in the building that we can take somebody with a wheelchair and take their taxes with them? You know, I'm looking at it that way. Maybe we can do something else there too, and still do what we need to do. Steve?
You know, Trustee Glass had mentioned, you know, working with vendors and looking for creative things that we're not even thinking of, because that's their field. But I think in addition, something like that, before everybody thinks like Steve was trying to break the counter down and bringing a sledgehammer in it. Like, no, I think they're just following that idea of looking for creative solutions, looking for people who are experts in the field. Might be, you know, something, there might be an option where with good signage and an appropriately height buzzer that could encourage someone who was at a lower height, like in a wheelchair, that could guide them and be ADA compliant to say, if you need assistance, you know, please press this button, and it signals staff on the other side to come out, like that. But Disability Network, who in 2015 did an assessment of all the buildings, like that, and that's why we have the door actuators right now. That was their suggestion, that you could press that button. The doors are heavy anyway, and if you're trying to manage a wheelchair and those heavy doors, this door actuator, you press that pad and the door opens automatically. And that was Disability Network's observation that we implemented along with many other measures. So Disability Network might have some ideas too. And they would appreciate it. Because when we implemented all the measures that they recommended before, they said, you're the first people who ever did what we asked you to do. So they really like us.
You know, one of the things I was going to say too, and then I'll be quiet, but one of the things is too, when I talk about ADA compliance for elections and stuff like that, which we do, but we also, and the assessor does, when we have people coming in here, the chairs are sitting out there in the hallway there, when we have stuff coming in here, and then they have to be explained to them, you know, their property and why thing is, then Dave comes out here and then sits down with them and explains to them, this is why it's drawn this way, this is what it shows. So there are other options that we could do too, to make it. So.
I just want to say, like, I hope that you're not discouraged by this, and I hope you bring it back soon, because I think it is urgent and important.
Yep,
So
we'll
thank
be
you.
back at the next meeting.
It's good to hear.
I just wanted to say, I don't think that there's anyone that is not for, completing it and making sure that the safety aspects and things are there. I do say that if we're gonna do it, you go to the max, not bulletproof, because that's a whole nother expense, but, if the end goal is safety, then go to the furthest point that you can go to in order to, have people secure, and so that the staff can feel secure in that. I just wanted to bring up points so that we are looking at it from, both sides of the glass. So you want to make sure that you're looking at both sides of the glass, from the resident standpoint and also from the employee standpoint, because I get it. And so, whereas it might be okay to, step out and assist some customers, if that customer already came in and they're already on 10, I probably don't want to go out there. But that's just me.
Yep.
You bring a really unique perspective, because it's your day to day, and so thank you for making your valid comments.
I have moments.
Anybody else? Okay. Mr. Police Chief, patrol vehicles, equipment, community policing, and all above.
So this equipment, as requested, is to be utilized as we transition older vehicles from the fleet to community policing. We generally try to transition the equipment that goes with it. Because we're unable to do that, so we're asking for $71,365.02 for new equipment to be placed in older vehicles for community policing. That allows officers to communicate with the rest of everybody and be connected with in-car computers and printers as well.
I just got one question I see on here too. It just says X special assessment. Does that mean it comes out of special assessment?
Well, remember we have, this is probably just a little understanding error from the lieutenant. We have community policing, special assessment that, so we have that fund set aside. That's for community policing funds only,
Okay,
or expenses only, I'm sorry.
okay. Then I think that probably cleared it up for a lot of us. Okay. Questions for the chief? On your hard sell.
Yeah,
You might want to sit down while you got,
Pretty good.
while you're ahead, right? Thanks, Brian, appreciate it. Okay, next one is the, any item that's on the regular agenda. Anybody got any questions that's on the regular agenda? Any items?
I don't have a question, but I did want to, if it's all right, just wanted to say that I had received an email from Trustee Ludi with a couple items on it, some suggestions for some edits and I don't know if now would be a good time. Like, this would be for the regular meeting. When we get to the consent agenda and the approval of the minutes, I wanted to take Trustee Ludi's suggestions and make some edits. There were a few. It was a little bit complicated with the different partners that came to talk during the work session about the homeowner preservation partnership. There were a lot of different organizations here, so there were a few little things that just got mixed up, and so Trustee Ludi made some suggestions, which I think would be good. And so I don't know if you'd like me to read them now, or they're minor edits, but I've reviewed them all, and I feel they're all appropriate. They're minor, but they would be good.
Well, I think we're gonna do it, if we do it now, then we're gonna do it twice anyway, so
Okay.
I think we can do it later.
Okay. So I just wondered, like, what detail, should I just read through them? Okay. And then, yeah, we also will, with the consent agenda, there were some items on there that were repeated that had already been approved from our last meeting. So I just make some minor changes to the consent agenda.
Were those the April 24?
Yeah, specifically for the approval section, the payment of the bills from May, that was already approved on May 13th, so that didn't need to be on there. And then the receipt of the check disbursement report from April and the check register report from April, those had already been received at our 5/13 meeting.
Yes, I noticed that. Thank you.
So I would just suggest that we remove those items from the consent agenda. Thanks.
Sounds good. Anybody else?
Yes,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I would like to talk about the tri-share childcare.
Okay.
We're being asked to vote on this, and haven't really had an opportunity to speak with department heads as to how many employees would be covered under this if we were to add this amenity for our employees, and the cost that we would be looking at by doing this. As we're asking for additional quiet time on Fridays to look at our general ledger and the money that we've spent, making sure that everything is appropriately recorded. I just feel like we need to take care of our house right now before we add additional expenses. And I think it's a wonderful thing to offer, especially because it's a partnership between the employee, the township, and the state. But I just feel like let's get everything in order before we continue to add more expenses to our taxpayers, because they are the ones that are going to be paying for this.
I'll just, I have some similar concerns, and I think it might be a wonderful program. I'm not saying I'm not in support of it, but I would really value seeing some estimates of what the expenses might be on our end, because that I haven't received any information like that. I don't know if anybody else on the board has that information, but I'd feel a lot more comfortable voting on it if we all had a bit more information on like a forecast of what those costs might be.
Ashley?
I'm like super supportive of doing things like this and making it, obviously making this the best place to work that we can, especially when it comes to people working as public servants. I feel like too often they're asked to do, a lot of work for not a lot of recognition sometimes. So I'm very supportive, but I too would like to see what our new superintendent has to say, and after she has a chance to review things and give us a better idea just of what we will be spending. Just so we have that in mind, we make sure we can cover everything, or if there's other options that she knows about, or other programs or things like that. So I just think it might be nice to give her the chance to come in and kind of have some input on this.
Okay. And I agree with what you're saying, both of you. One of the things is we don't know. I did talk to one of the staff people that we have working that is going with the state, and the state's going to go ahead and pay for their child care. So we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. It's because of the thing is that person is taken out. I know we will have some people on the other side, on the police side, that probably could use it. But there's always there's a cap on how much you can make too. So, I mean, there's a lot of variables in there. I do know at Central Dispatch, but I will pull it off. I do know at Central Dispatch, what we thought it was gonna cost us isn't costing us that nearly as much as we thought it was gonna be. It's a lot less. But it is a good source for them because they're using part-time help they're using full-time people that are on a part-time job, doing a part-time job now because they can't afford to work and pay the babysitter stuff, so it works for them. So right now, I'm agree with you, let's pull it off, and we'll look at it down the road and see where we're at, find out what, we can get some numbers, who we might have that would be using it out of this area.
I'm just gonna say, I agree with you. I have kids in daycare, and it's
Right.
extremely expensive. So I'm
Yeah.
confident that we can find some kind of solution to
Right.
help people. I mean, I hope we can. I bet there's different ways we can do that too. And I'm just thinking, like, it might just be nice to give our new superintendent a chance that, like, maybe she has some ideas too on how we could offset some of that cost for childcare. But I love the direction that we're heading in. I love that we're talking about this. I think it's extremely important. And so I'm really supportive of continuing. I don't want to see it go away. I wanna- Yeah.
So in summary, I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
We're removing 9A, and we are removing 9I from the agenda. And then the consumer energy contract, did we finally agree on removing that and getting some more information, or not? That would be 9E.
B9 what?
E. I mean, I would be happy to make the contact and then just bring it right back again.
I know the one at H Avenue in Drake Road has to be done.
But that's not what we have before
Right,
us.
that's not before, that's further down in here. But that one there, yes, as far as I'm concerned, you can remove it.
Okay.
That was 9E?
Yeah, so that's 9A, 9E, and 9I.
Yeah. A, E, and I, right? Okay. Anybody else?
Get rid of those vowels.
Yeah. Steve?
I was gonna mention too, with the tri-share, you already raised a lot of points I was thinking of after having gone to the central dispatch
Right.
board meeting. And I think, either the city Kalamazoo, city of Portage, and Kalamazoo County are either also going with tri-share or considering it. or
Yeah, the
studying
city already has done it,
Yeah.
and the county was going to do it too.
it. And then with central dispatch, I think it was 2 or 3 employees right now
Yeah.
are on board. And like you said, Supervisor, it could change with anybody, somebody else, their income knocks
Right.
them out, or other situations, it could change possibly every day, it could change.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It all depends how young of a workforce you have too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would just like to ask our chiefs if they could do some checking in your departments to see how many of your employees would benefit from this, or how many would qualify.
We already did. I sent that to Mr. Martin. So currently just one employee's interested, but more indicated interest moving down.
Okay. Thank you.
We also have one eligible facilitation.
Okay. Internally, I think we have one, just
Well,
one.
we had one, but we're not anymore because that one is pulled away, the state's paying it.
Okay.
So they're paying the whole thing for them. That person, okay?
Mr. Supervisor,
Sure.
I happen to, because I have a contact with CABA and with your ordinance enforcement officer, I feel like those are the ones that will know what people may be able and or willing to take advantage of your funding that you got last month. And I just don't like, and I think I wrote the minutes, I totally did not understand who was doing what. If somebody can put together a little notice for them to be able to hand out to people, it seemed like an awful lot of money to have to spend, and it was to keep people in their homes. And I think that by and large, those guys with the feet on the ground know people that potentially could use it. I know last month or last week, and Shireen had sent something which I forwarded over to Rob McCain, but it would be helpful to be able to know kind of what to give people who are seeking assistance. And if it was confusing to me with 2 degrees, it might be.
Do you mean something beyond the brochure that Community Homeworks provided
Yeah,
to
just,
us?
who do we contact? What would that person be able to fund or provide us guidance on? And, because I think there were like 3 different groups that were involved.
Right.
And, there's like money for certain things, but I know the building official and the ordinance officer were just like, what are you talking about? So it'd be good to be able to maybe put that out somehow for people who could use it.
Okay. Sure.
I did reach out to all three of the presenters, and the biggest thing is that the residents should fill out an application directly to them, and then they will work directly with the resident. They really, because they know their business, they would prefer to be the lead on it. So just encourage them to fill out an application with Community Homeworks. And if we can get that on our website as well as in our newsletter, I think that would help a lot. We have a lot of maturing adults in the township, and there are a lot of folks, when they said 50,000 for, you know, an annual salary or below, a lot of people could qualify for that. So, and there was a lot of money
Yeah,
that they
there
said
is.
was available.
And just to, you know, maybe for, you know, to be able to say to Rob and, or Mike, like, here's who to get a hold of, you guys have to initiate it. And at least kind of give them a clue on the program would be helpful.
Yep. We'll get some brochures.
Something, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else, anything else? Okay. Yes, sir.
Thanks. Just wanted to, since it wasn't on any of the agendas, touch base on the 2023 annual report that got submitted to the board in the packet today. Thank you guys for the last year. A couple things that I wanted to point out besides the normal statistics. Page 11 kind of outlines the increase in calls that we've seen both in fire and rescue over the last 10 years. 55 and 63% increase. Something I didn't specifically outline in the text though is that also in the last 3 years we've seen about a 30% decrease in firefighters on scene responding to calls over that time. That is something that we will continue to monitor and pay attention to. But also along those lines, we will have another paid-on-call hiring upcoming late summer and into the fall. So if you know any neighbors or anybody who'd be interested in becoming a firefighter with us, make sure to encourage them to apply. You can direct them to the website or to me directly here at the township. Also, on the capital expenditures, down on page 25, the Eastwood Station upgrades project that we undertook in 2023. After I brought it to the board with your guys' approval, we had a budget of around $52,000, and we were able to accomplish that whole project for a little under $10,000. So just wanted to thank you guys for that process, and we look to be good stewards of the money every day. So if there's any questions with this or anything else on the packet, I'd be happy to address those as well.
Okay.
It was a very excellent report. I enjoyed reading it.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I would echo that. I thought it was really well put together and very helpful to understand everything you've been working on this year and all the accomplishments. So thank you for putting that together. I know it takes a lot of time.
It takes a whole team to put this together as well as do everything that's in this packet. So I want to thank everybody that's along with us for the ride within the whole fire department. So,
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Appreciate it. And now it's time for citizens' comments. Would you like to come up and talk to us or no? Okay. Okay, then we are adjourned at 6:48. And I'll see you back at 7:30.